Today's lectionary reading depicts a portion of Jesus' trial before Pilate as a religious elite serving as prosecutors. And the story comes up today because it's Reign of Christ Sunday, the end of the church calendar where Christ's elevation to sovereign in our lives is celebrated. Because in the end, what matters for Christians is that Christ reigns in our lives. And the lesson ties into all that because there's much discussion about Jesus being a king. As John tells it, the religious elite appointed by Rome to run the temple have just shown up with Jesus in tow, seeking to have him tried and convicted and executed. The elite represent power in Palestine, appointed and controlled by Rome. And in the eyes of the very oppressive Roman authority and its elite figures, Jesus was a subversive who challenged Rome's way. Under Jesus' way, God is the sole sovereign, and all of God's subjects are valued and loved equally. Justice and love are what matters. Under Rome's way, the vast majority of people were not valued, but expendable, and certainly not equal. Power and wealth for Rome and its elite were what mattered. And under Rome's way of thinking, Caesar is the only king, the only leader, and only his appointed temple elite are supposed to be leading religious movements. And we're meant to hear in this story that Rome's elites sacrifice God's way of love and God too in their lust to achieve and maintain power. The text is not anti-Jewish. Jesus and his followers were Jewish. It's not anti-Jewish. It's anti-oppression. It's anti-hypocritical elites. In our day and age, religious and secular elites of many stripes sacrifice God's way of love in their lust to achieve and to maintain power. Elites find ways to claim piety and still be part of the uncleanliness and ungodliness of oppression. And here's the thing. If we encounter a lack of religious message from any person or faith, it is plain as day that the God of the Bible, the God of Jesus, the God who is love, is not being followed. They have not made God sovereign in their lives. It's that simple. And that is the point that the author of John is making. It's a point. He wants us to go home. The Roman-aligned religious elite are portrayed in John as asking for oppressive justice from an ungodly Roman governor Pilate, and they want it against Jesus. And we find Pilate running between the holy and unholy, and we are to figure out which is which. Who is God really speaking through? And just before our scene from the lectionary verses, these legal hijinks are reported in earlier verses in John. The religious elite took Jesus from Caiaphas to Pilate's headquarters. It was early in the morning. They themselves did not enter the headquarters so as to avoid ritual defilement and to be able to eat the Passover. And so Pilate went out to them and said, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" And they answered, "If this man were not a criminal, we would not have handed him over to you." And Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and judge him according to your law." And the religious leaders replied, "We are not permitted to put anyone to death." And as we heard in the lesson, a very summary trial scene ensues. Pilate, in those verses that I've read so well, comes off pretty goofy, questioning Jesus on what, to us as story hearers, is obvious. Jesus is King. He is the Holy One. And Pilate lets Jesus actually turn the tables and interrogate him. "Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me?" Jesus inquires of Pilate. This is a dig at how the temple elite, Pilate's minions, are telling him what to do. And then Jesus says, my kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here. And Pilate looked at what must have seemed to him a nobody, expendable wretch of a human, and mockingly asked, so you are the king? Jesus is so clever. He doesn't let up or bat an eye at the mockery. Instead, he takes the question and tweaks Pilate's nose with it, claiming Pilate called him king. You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice. That had to have sounded absurd to Pilate and to the religious elite. Pursue earthly ways over heavenly ways. Rome's rules are followed there. They are not questioned. There's no way Jesus is king to their way of being and their way of thinking. The ultimate king for them is an earthly one, Caesar. And the way they follow is man's. It is a way of obtaining and holding power and getting peace through violence and oppression. For them, might always makes right. Power rules. And we see that power putting love on trial into this story. During the first Holy Week, we see that power convicting love, trying to crush love. For Caesar and Pilate and their cronies, prophets who preach power vested in a reign that is not Rome's, must be stopped. Those prophets, like John the Baptist and Jesus, are rebels. And they and their rebellions must be eliminated. Rome's power, Rome's way, must reign supreme and is the means by which secular elites and their appointed religious elites thrive in the story as John tells them. The names for earthly powers have changed over the centuries, with the likes of Caesar and Rome, Pilate, and power-hungry religious elites willing to sacrifice God's loving way, and even God, have continued to exist. They existed when Jesus lived, and they exist now. And Jesus' way back then and now presents a whole different choice. It's a simple choice, really. We can choose earthly power as what reigns over us, or we can choose heavenly power as what reigns over us. Is it going to be Caesar, or is it going to be Christ, the one we know as God incarnate on earth now? It's a multiple choice test. And the answer, of course, is given in the title, Reign of Christ Sunday, also known as Christ the King Sunday. And we have such a day at the end of the church calendar because, as the Feasting on the Word commentary puts it, on this Sunday, the church proclaims Christ the King. The church announces that it bows only to Jesus the Christ. The church declares that it does not give allegiance to any other person, principality, or power claiming to be sovereign. And we may think kings are old-fashioned, but another commentary, text for preaching for today, notes the category of king may seem remote to most contemporary congregations. Yet as a political term, it retains amazing relevance. So often the issues that demand decisions of people and communities are political in nature, and in the final analysis boil down to a choice between Jesus and Caesar. There is divine justice in the fact that both Rome's chosen secular and religious elites mock claims of Jesus as king and chill him in hopes of getting rid of him and his way of love. The justice that plays out is that instead Jesus becomes king to so many over the years as they reject Caesar's way and follow God. As I said, that lesson that's before us is a simple choice. We can choose earthly power as what reigns over us, or we can choose and accept heavenly power as what reigns over us. Is it going to be Caesar or Christ, the one we know as God incarnate on earth now? And the right choice has been made by many a saint, including saints of this church and saints in our lives. And today it is a tradition in this church that we not only proclaim Christ as King, but also honor the saints of this particular community. We remember them. We lift them up by name, those who have passed away in the past year. And on this Thanksgiving weekend, it is right we do this as an expression of thanks and remembrance of our saints. It's also right that we give thanks for Jesus, who dared to place love as paramount in his teachings and in his life, so much so he was willing to be hauled before Pilate and tried and convicted and executed as a rebel for the cause of heaven's reign on earth. This cause provides a way to peace that is decidedly not Caesar's way, where might does not make right. Rather, God's way of love and justice for all is right 100% of the time for 100% of the people. Heaven's reign is Christ's reign, which is love reigning day and night, all the time, on all of humanity. And the promise of that reign is something for us to continuously give much, much thanks for.